December 17, 1944. History calls it a war crime. But for General George S. Patton, it was simply survival. In the freezing, blood-soaked winter of 1944, when Hitler's most dangerous and fanatic SS units raised the white flag of surrender in front of exhausted American troops, other commanders saw a standard cessation of hostilities. They saw a defeated enemy asking for quarter. But George S. Patton saw a lethal ambush hiding behind that piece of white cloth. He looked at the shifting dynamics of the battlefield and gave an unwritten, unspoken, yet universally understood order across his vanguard. Keep firing. Show absolutely no mercy. Do not stop until the threat is permanently eradicated. But shooting an explicitly surrendered enemy? Under the established rules of the Geneva Conventions, this is the very definition of a war crime. Was General Patton truly a rogue commander violating the sacred laws of armed conflict? Or was his ruthless combat instinct the exact and only thing that saved the lives of thousands of American soldiers from a slaughter they never saw coming? Let us step completely away from the sanitized, heavily redacted history books we are usually taught in school. The version of the Second World War where the good guys always play by the rules and the bad guys are neatly defeated with honor. In the deep, impenetrable, and frozen forests of the Ardennes during the Battle of the Bulge, the reality was a nightmare of snow, shrapnel, and shattered mines. The German war machine was collapsing, and in their absolute desperation, the Waffen-SS had engineered a new and deeply gruesome tactical maneuver. It was the absolute weaponization of mercy. To understand the gravity of this, you have to understand the psychology of the front lines. For weeks, American boys, freezing in their foxholes, had been hammered by heavy artillery and the relentless tracks of panzer tanks. When an enemy finally stands up from the tree line holding a white flag, the immediate human reaction is psychological release. The fighting is over. You survived. Fanatical SS troops deliberately exploited that exact moment of human relief. The moment American GIs lowered their M1 Garands and stepped out of their protective trenches to take prisoners, hidden SS snipers in the trees and MG-42 machine gunners concealed beneath the snowbanks would instantly open fire, wiping out the entire American squad in a matter of seconds. This was no longer a regular war. It was a coordinated guerrilla assault, an act known in military terminology as perfidy. But General Patton's towering anger and his visceral refusal to honor these white flags did not stem from abstract tactical theory. It was born from a specific, horrifying reality that had just unfolded in the snow. Just hours earlier, near a lonely crossroads by a Belgian town called Malmedy, the tipping point of the entire Western Front occurred. Elements of Kampfgruppe Piper, a ruthlessly aggressive armored unit of the 1st SS Panzer Division, had intercepted a lightly armed convoy of the American 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion. Outgunned and surrounded, the Americans did exactly what the rules of war dictated. They laid down their weapons. Over 80 men were disarmed and marched into an open, snow-covered field near the Ardennes crossroads. They stood freezing in the winter air, waiting to be transported to a prisoner of war camp. Instead, the SS commanders ordered their armored vehicles to turn their heavy machine guns toward the captive Americans. Without warning, they opened fire. Men fell by the dozens, screaming in the snow. Those who were not killed in the initial volley dropped to the ground, pretending to be dead. But the SS were thorough. They walked through the field, casually stepping over the bleeding American boys, and systematically shot anyone who moved or breathed in the head at point-blank range. 84 American soldiers were murdered in cold blood. A few miraculous survivors managed to play dead long enough for the Germans to leave, eventually running through the freezing woods to reach American lines. Within hours, the word of the Malmedy Massacre spread through the American ranks like wildfire. The psychological impact was immediate and irreversible. The Americans understood that the enemy standing in front of them had abandoned all chivalry and buried the rules of war in the frozen mud of the Ardennes. Adding gasoline to this fire of paranoia was another SS operation happening simultaneously. Operation Greif. Commanded by Hitler's favorite commando, Otto Skorzeny. This operation involved dressing German SS soldiers in captured American uniforms, arming them with American weapons, and putting them in captured American jeeps. These impostors were sent behind American lines to cut communication wires, change road signs, and cause absolute chaos. Suddenly, you couldn't trust the white flag, and you couldn't even trust the uniform of the man standing right next to you. Trust was entirely dead. The Ardennes had become a paranoid, hyperlethal hunting ground. This is the exact environment in which General George S. Patton was operating. Patton was not an ordinary general. He was a brilliant, eccentric, and aggressive student of military history who understood that war is a primitive, brutal endeavor. He loved his men. He demanded discipline. He demanded perfection. But above all, he demanded that they survive and destroy the enemy. When reports of the fake surrenders, the massacres, and the infiltrators reached his desk, Patton's calculus was frighteningly simple. The Germans had breached the social contract of warfare. He made it crystal clear to his commanders, who in turn made it clear to the men holding the rifles. Do not expose yourselves. Do not step out of your foxholes. You pour artillery, mortar, and machine gun fire into their positions until the white flag is buried in the snow along with the men holding it. The tragic reality of the Battle of the Bulge is that the resulting combat devolved into an apocalyptic fight for survival. The unwritten rule among many American infantrymen became no quarter asked, no quarter given. By attempting to weaponize American decency, the SS had completely removed that decency from the equation. The tactic backfired spectacularly on the Germans. By exploiting the rules of engagement, the SS had guaranteed that thousands of their own men, who might have genuinely wanted to lay down their arms as the battle turned against them, would be shown no mercy by the enraged, paranoid American GIs. Armchair historians and critics operating from the safety of peacetime often argue that a civilized army must maintain its moral superiority, even in the face of absolute atrocity. They want the story of the Second World War to be a clean crusade with a pure hero and an irredeemable villain. But war is never clean. In that bloody hell of the Ardennes, if you are a 19-year-old kid from Ohio watching your friends get gunned down by men exploiting a symbol of peace, the morality becomes incredibly simple. Did Patton prevent a wider slaughter by neutralizing a threat, or did he cross a dark line? The answer depends entirely on your perspective. If you are sitting in a warm classroom decades later, it is easy to judge. But one thing is absolutely certain. If George S. Patton had forced his men to blindly trust the white flags of the SS that winter, thousands more American mothers would have received telegrams informing them that their sons were never coming home. History can judge him however it wants. History can call him a brute, a megalomaniac, or a rule-breaker. But to the men shivering in the foxholes of the Ardennes, who lived to see the spring of 1945, he was only one thing. He was survival.